Welcome to the Christian Success Show, the show that helps you achieve more success in every area of your life. I'm your host, Wes Young. Thank you for joining me today. The Christian Success Show is brought to you by Christian-Success.com. Visit Christian-Success.com to join the community and check out the special $7 deals designed to help you achieve big success in specific areas of your life. If you want personal help achieving more success, you can find out how to work with the top Christian life, success, and business coach and consultant at Christian-Success.com/coach. Now, let's get started with today's show. Today's show is how to start a speaking business. And a speaking business is an excellent side business to get started. A speaking business can earn you money for speaking. It also can help you build credibility. You can use it to generate leads for one of your businesses or a side business. There's a lot of good things about going into the speaking business, but a lot of people are afraid of the speaking business, or they're afraid to speak in public, and we're going to talk about all of these things during this show. I speak probably around 12 to 15 times a year. I'm not a full-time speaker, but I do use it for different things. I use it for one stream of income, and I also use it to build credibility for some of the other things I do, like the coaching and consulting that I do. Speaking is one of the best ways to build credibility, because a lot of times when someone sees a speaker or listens to a speaker, they assign them a level of expert status. And you should be somewhat of an expert on whatever you speak on, but it doesn't mean you have to be one of the top 1% experts in the world. All that matters is that you're able to convey information that your audience finds useful or interesting. You don't even necessarily have to know more about the information than everyone in your audience. You simply need to be able to present it to them in an understandable way or in a different way, and sometimes it helps to be somewhat entertaining. However, most speaking engagements are not as much about entertainment as they are about relaying information. So, if you're thinking about going into a speaking business, one of the first questions I get when I talk to people about this is, what should they speak about? The place to start is start with what you know. You know things right now that other people might be interested in, whether this is from work experience or life experience or things you've done in your business or whatever. You have things that you already know that you can share with people that some audiences are going to find interesting or informational. And you don't have to speak about business topics. There's people that go and listen to speakers and things about all kinds of topics, wide range, just about anything that you might be interested in. There's some other people that are interested in that also. And if you don't feel like you know enough to speak about any particular subject, then do some research and become an expert. Buy some books, read some articles, watch some videos. You can become enough of an expert in many different areas rather quickly to be able to speak about them. I'd say if you spent an hour a day for a month on most subjects, you would be able to learn enough to be able to speak about them in front of most audiences. It's also helpful if you can use a little bit of humor when you speak, but not too much unless you're a comedian. And honestly, comedy is a very tough business to work in. You see comedians on TV that are funny, but that's only a small percentage of the people that try to be comedians. So if you're looking to be a comedian, I can't help you. I do work a little bit of humor into almost every speech that I make, but I know I'm not a comedian. I don't work on jokes. I don't write them every day. That's not my market. However, one thing that a little bit of humor can do, especially if you work it into the beginning of your speech, it can help the audience relax and help them relate to you a little more. A lot of times I like to tell a little story about something funny that's happened to me or a funny mistake I've made, because this is giving them a true story, but also showing them that I'm human and I make mistakes, and I'm willing to laugh at myself. And you'd be surprised at how much this disarms your audience and makes most of them at least open to listening to you. You do need to know your audience. There are some audiences where humor is not going to work at all. So you do need to know your audience before you try to use humor. Then another question I get all the time is, should I script out my entire speech? Well, I'll tell you how I used to do it. When I first got started, I had many of the same fears as you're probably having if you've never given a speech before. I was afraid I was going to mess up. I was afraid I was going to look stupid. I was afraid people were going to laugh at me and I was going to be embarrassed. So at that time, I scripted out every single word I was going to say in my speech. And then I practiced in front of the mirror over and over until it became natural. And eventually, I gained enough confidence that now I do not script out my speeches. What I do is I outline my speeches. I use a note card, either 3x5 or a 4x6 note card, and I put headings for each of the main things I want to talk about. And I've spoken enough times now that I don't have the same fears as you do when you first get started. So I know I can get back on track. I know if I make a mistake, we can just laugh about it and move on, and it's not a big deal. So I don't get stuck. I don't get stage fright or freeze up there. If I get off track or something throws me off track, I simply look at my note card, pick out the next heading or the last one I covered, and start from there. But there's nothing wrong with scripting your entire speech if that makes you more comfortable. I highly recommend scripting the entire thing if it's your first few speaking opportunities. But then if you become comfortable, you can just use what I use and you can outline it, and you can use your outline to stay on track. Either way's fine. If you do script out your entire speech, you need to practice it enough that it comes out naturally. You don't need to memorize it, but you do need to practice it enough times where it doesn't sound like you're reading off the page. Another thing that I think is very helpful to people that are going into speaking is you need to develop one or two go-to speeches. And I've got 2 or 3 things that I can stand up in front of almost any audience and immediately give from memory. These are speeches I've given several times, but I'm very comfortable with the information. I'm very knowledgeable about it. I've got it down, and I can adjust them to the audience I'm speaking to. And this is something I think you should do, is you should develop 1 or 2 go-to speeches. One of my main go-to speeches, I talk about my success goal system. I know it inside out, frontward, backwards. I believe in it. I know it works because I've used it, and I can make just about any audience see how they can use it to improve. So that's an example of a go-to speech. The next thing is finding places to speak. I speak at churches quite a bit because, this is a Christian success show, so I talk about Christian success, but I also speak about other biblical things at churches. So this is a natural place for me. And the good thing is there's churches all around the country that either don't have preachers or are looking for preachers or speakers. So if you simply contact all the churches within a 45-minute drive or whatever, you're going to be able to find a lot of opportunities to go speak, because a lot of them are looking for people. And even I speak at a lot of churches that already have full-time ministers, and they want other people to come in occasionally to give them a break or to give a different voice. You can also contact event planners. Event planners are looking for speakers. Local organizations, contact a lot of your local business organizations. You can also develop training programs for larger businesses. And finally, you need to start networking. You need to tell everyone you know that you're in the speaking business and let them know what kind of things you can speak about. I highly recommend that every speaker have a website that has a little bit of audio on it and also a few video clips. And you need to collect testimonials every time you speak, because you can use testimonials to prove that you have decent speaking ability, and it'll help you get more speaking jobs down the road. Always dress towards the top of your audience. If you're talking to a bunch of farmers, there's nothing wrong with farmers, I know a lot of them, they just usually don't dress in suits and ties. And while you can wear a suit and tie to speak to farmers, I recommend wearing just a nice outfit with a long sleeve collared shirt, but not necessarily a tie and not a suit, because you want to dress towards the top of your audience, but you don't want to dress so far over your audience that it makes it uncomfortable. I get a question about should you use speakers bureaus. Unless you're a very popular author, very popular speaker, speaker bureaus are a waste of your time. They're not interested in working with or helping anybody that doesn't already have enough work that they don't need a speaker bureau. So I don't use speaker bureaus. How much to charge? This is a question that's almost impossible to answer. You have to figure out your audience, the value of what you're speaking about. You've got to decide how much it's going to cost you in lost opportunity to take the time to go speak. You should charge as much as you can get, a fair price, but you have to remain flexible, and if something doesn't pay enough, then just simply pass on the opportunity. Also, should you ever speak for free? Sometimes I do speak for free, but only if I have something to sell by speaking, or if it's to an audience I want to connect with that can spend money with me in some other way. If I have an opportunity to speak for free in front of a large group of business owners, I know that I can get some business for my coaching and consulting business out of that speech, so I don't mind going and speaking for free. As I mentioned before, you can use speaking to help generate leads for your other businesses. Now, to finish up, let's talk a little bit about fear of speaking. I was very fortunate in that where I go to church, at a very young age, I started standing up and reading things in front of the church and speaking in church. Probably from the time I was 5 or 6 years old, at least 3 or 4 times a year, I was standing up and either reading something or speaking in front of the church. So I never learned to have a tremendous fear of speaking, because that was a safe environment, and I started speaking before I learned you should be afraid of messing up. But let's say you're older now and you haven't been fortunate enough to have this experience. The thing about speaking is, it's easy to speak about something you know a lot about. Almost anyone can stand up in front of a crowd and tell the crowd what their name is, because they're very comfortable with their name. They know their name, they're not going to mess up. So my advice is, if you're afraid of speaking, is put together a 5-minute or a 2-minute speech and make sure you know it inside and out, and speak about something you really know about, and then find a small group of people to give the speech to. You can even start with your family. It can be 2 or 3 people. It can be 10 people. Find a small group and give them a very short speech that you know by heart, that you're not going to mess up on, and write it all out. So if you do get messed up, you can pick back up right where you left off, and then keep expanding this and expanding the length of your speeches and speak to bigger and bigger audiences. And this way you can gain the confidence to speak without fear, or at least deal with the fear well enough so you can speak. So that's how to start a speaking business. I want to sincerely thank you for joining me today. I know that you have plenty of options on how you spend your time, and it's an honor you're letting me help you achieve more success in your life. God bless you. Don't forget to check out the special $7 deals designed to help you achieve more success in specific areas of your life at Christian-success.com. If you want personal help achieving more success, you can find out how to work with the top Christian life, success, and business coach and consultant at Christian-success.com/coach. Have a blessed day.